So Venom 2, or should I say the Eddie and Venom show, right? I love this movie overall. I really did enjoy it. I love the comedic aspect that Tom Hardy is able to bring not only to Eddie Brock, but mostly to Venom as far as the voice acting goes. I think it's pretty awesome that he's able to play two characters at once, really. In this movie we get to see them more independent of each other, but overall he's playing two characters at once, which I think would be really difficult, but he is able to pull it off really well. And I think for this movie, it doesn't take itself too seriously, which I think is appreciated. And I think that with the comedic aspects that we get, I personally enjoyed all the banter between them. And I think Venom, while he is very menacing, he can be very funny and very likable. And I think that's what Sony's trying to do, is make him, the anti-hero, which they did a really good job. They did in the first movie, but I think they did more so in this movie. So this movie is all about relationships. So I was thinking about this, you have your best thoughts in the shower. And I was thinking about this. I was thinking, there are a lot of relationships in this movie. I don't know if Andy Serkis was really kind of trying to go for that, but we have Eddie and Venom, of course. We have Eddie and Venom and Anne. We have Anne and Dan, which I want to say glad that we got to see a She-Venom cameo, by the way, even if it was just for a little bit. We have Eddie and Venom and Dan. We have Cletus and Shriek. We have Cletus and Carnage. We have Cletus and Carnage and Shriek. And we have Shriek and Detective Mulligan. And we have Venom and Carnage as father and son. That's a lot of relationships going on. Now, I'm saying relationships as far as connections, associations. I mean, I'm not saying like full-blown romantic relationships, so calm down. I'm talking more of like, that's a lot of character, associations and joins going on, and trying to keep all that kind of going during the movie. I think they do work overall, but yeah, this movie's all about the relationships. In saying that, I did want to talk about how the movie kind of touched upon the symbiotic relationship between Venom and Eddie, and the more parasitic relationship, the non-bonded relationship between Cletus and Carnage. So we all know that Carnage, it's clear from the movie, Cletus bites Eddie's hand. He does get some of the, Venom symbiote with Eddie's blood. And because it's that kind of bonding with Cletus's characteristics and craziness overall, Carnage is born. So I'd like how throughout the movie we do kind of see that while Eddie and Venom have more of a mutualistic understanding and a symbiotic relationship working with each other, Cletus and Carnage really don't have that. They are kind of working together in the moment, but Carnage has his reasoning for doing things, and so does Cletus, right? So Carnage wants to basically kill Venom because only one can survive, one alien symbiote. And then we have Cletus, who wants to not only be with Shriek, but also get his revenge on Eddie Brock for putting him in prison and not being his friend. And then we have Shriek, who wants to get her revenge on Detective Mulligan. And those all kind of go together. They're all kind of a hodgepodge. So it was kind of cool that the movie kind of went there and just blatantly said that Carnage is a parasite. Venom is more of a mutualistic relationship going on. So one thing I wanted to talk about was Carnage or chaos. So this movie was PG-13, right? So it can appeal to a more broader audience. So that means kids could go to it, families can take their kids to it, because he is trying to be a hero and they want to sell merchandise. So, it's a movie that can appeal to everybody, right? But to me, the Carnage character was not able to fully be Carnage because of the PG-13 rating. I think had it been a rated R movie, Carnage could have really upped the ante and done a lot of things that we kind of saw off screen. I mean, they did some stuff on screen. I mean, as far as just, his aggressive violence, he put the little appendage down the guy's throat. I mean, that was kind of creepy. He does take people's heads off, like by biting them, but it's kind of like off screen. So we see Carnage biting, but we don't see like the actual action happen. I mean, so there is stuff like that happens. So he is Carnage to that point, but I think given how he is in the comics, I think that it just, to me, was more chaotic, not Carnage, right? And I know that I am a fan of growing up with the Spider-Man animated cartoon, and I know Carnage was in that, and I know that they didn't go there in the cartoon. I get that, but that's a cartoon, right? And it's made for kids. This is a movie, live action, trying to be a representation of the comic book material. So I think had they had the opportunity to kind of go there, they would have went there. And I think, to me, that would have been, it would have just made Carnage even better. Now, in saying that, I do believe that Cletus and Carnage are the better villains in this movie. I know that there's Cletus and Carnage and Shriek, but I think that Cletus and Carnage are better than at least the first villains that we got in the first movie, at least in my opinion. I know, and also saying that we have like the lethal protectors. We have Venom and Eddie Brock. Venom wants to be able to go out and, save people, but also be able to eat the people that are hurting them, the villains and the bad guys. We kind of got that a little bit like towards the very end. We had multiple attempts for Venom wants to bite people's heads off, but we didn't get to the very end to where he actually bit off Cletus's head, I'm pretty sure, or did some damage to him. He also ate Carnage. So we have that kind of stuff, but the movie just can't really go there because of the rating, and I'm hoping maybe in a third Venom movie, maybe, we can do rated R and we could actually kind of go there. So we mentioned Shriek, and I have to say, who gives a shriek about Shriek? If that makes sense. She seemed cool at first, but was just kind of wasted overall, right? I mean, it sets up a good premise as far as giving Cletus drive because he has found his love, right? He has found his yang to his yin, or whatever you want to call that. And it sets up the good premise for her to have this continuing driving force because she sees that he loves her and they want to be together, right? So more of like a sadistic love, but just go with it. Anyways, she has a cool power set and she has reason for revenge with Detective Mulligan. So she has some story, overall. So for the third act to come along and just kind of like place her there and just kind of hardly do stuff with her. I mean, stuff happens with her, but it's just kind of like the movie loses what to do with her. I kind of got that feeling like, oh, we got to do something with Shriek now because Venom and Carnage are fighting, and we got, Dan and Eddie Brock trying to save, we have all this stuff going on, but we can't forget about Shriek though and Detective Mulligan. We got to make sure we do stuff with them. That's what it kind of felt like. And then the way she dies is kind of like, while it is related to her power set, it's just kind of like, really? I would have loved more for Shriek to have some type of redemption, maybe. I think maybe she could have seen that while in her lust for revenge for Detective Mulligan, that she loved Cletus more, and that because she could see Cletus was more of a victim of Carnage, and Carnage was wanting to get rid of her so he could just use Cletus. I think it'd have been cool to see her use her powers to save Cletus. Maybe Cletus would just get put back in Ravencroft and all that kind of stuff. I think I'd just rather have seen that. I think that'd have been more, just like kind of like they do in Batman movies. Like they do the villains do their bad things, but then they go back to Arkham. I think we could have done that with Raven. I think we could have done with these guys and sent them back to Ravencroft. I think Shriek could have helped kill Carnage, but then her and Cletus could have, lived in sadistic matrimony in Ravencroft. One thing I want to talk about was the runtime. So the movie is 90 minutes, so an hour and a half. And is that just right? Or is that too fast and too much? So some of the group I went with, they were kind of split. Some people thought that the movie was too short, or maybe was an okay runtime, but maybe had too much going on, too fast. They couldn't catch up. They couldn't figure out what was going on. I can kind of see that. I thought to myself, I was telling a friend of mine I was sitting with, I thought that the movie was paced, pretty consistent. Like there was always something going on, and it never had a lot of lull time, so to speak. So I think it kind of just worked. So for me, I like that. Some people didn't like that. You left in the comments below if you think the runtime was okay or if it was too much, too fast. All right, one more thing I want to talk about before we get to the rating, and this is pure spoiler alert, is the ending and post-credit scenes. So at the end of Venom 2, we get to see our lucky survival buddy, Detective Mulligan, who is laying down on a cathedral rafter, and he has glowing blue eyes, which could only mean something sinister and bad is going to happen, or something's going to happen to him in a potential Venom 3. So I had to look into this because I was like, what's going on with him? Because it wasn't that apparent in the movie, but I know that they wouldn't have put it in there for no reason. So evidently, during the battle between Venom and Carnage, when Cletus and Carnage kind of have their temporary separated moments, and Carnage, I guess, feels like he's going to die anyway, he somehow gives an offspring to Detective Mulligan. I don't remember seeing this anywhere in the movie, but suppose that's what happens. Now in the comics, when Carnage does this and has an offspring to Detective Mulligan, he turns into the symbiotoxin, which is kind of like a combination of Venom and Carnage. And he is a very powerful symbiote, and so that's what we're going to probably see in an upcoming Venom 3 if it ever were to happen. We're going to see Toxin, and it's supposed to be Venom versus Toxin, or maybe Spider-Man versus Toxin? Don't know yet, but that's what leads up to the post-credit scene where we get to see the multiverse effects from the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer, Far From Home, or whatever we're at now, where we had Doctor Strange try to help Spider-Man, Peter Parker, try to undo the events of him be able to give his identity away, and hoping that that will solve all their problems and save his friends and family. So in doing that, the multiverse happens, so we think, pretty sure. And in doing that, we get to see the effects happen in Venom, and this is our opportunity to see Venom come to the MCU. Now, we already are hearing rumblings and rumors about having Fox, possibly X-Men characters, maybe Fantastic Four, come to the MCU in either Spider-Man No Way Home or in Doctor Strange 2. But now we have Venom, clear as day, from the scene where they're in the hotel, they're lying down, they're watching a novella, and then the multiverse happens. They end up in a nicer hotel room, which we think is the same room, and they are looking at the same TV screen, but now it's the Daily Bugle, and it's Peter Parker on the screen, and Venom's like, ooh, who's this guy? And he licks the screen. So obviously now they're in the same Tom Holland, Peter Parker, Spider-Man, and Tom Hardy's Venom from Sony, they're in the same universe, at least with the multiverse. So I think what'll happen is we'll get to see Venom maybe pop up. Maybe he'll help. We don't know if he's going to be part of the Sinister Six, if they're going to find some way to make him a villain and attack Spider-Man, or if maybe it'll start off that way, like a miscommunication, and then maybe he will help save Peter Parker, fight the rest of the five, Lizard and Doc Ock and Green Goblin and all the rest of them. So maybe that's what's going to happen. So maybe we'll see him just for a little bit, like the third act of Spider-Man 2. Maybe he'll pop up in Doctor Strange 2. Probably not. Probably in Spider-Man 2. And then maybe after that, when the multiverse thing is over, he'll just go back to where he came from and we'll get Venom 3 with Toxin. So we'll have to wait and see, but I think that's possibly what could happen. So if I had to give a final thoughts and rating for Venom 2, I'm going to give it 4.5 out of 5. And I highly recommend it. Now, one of the things I want to briefly talk about with this is, given the post-credit scene, the discussion has become, should you watch Venom 2? And are Venom 1 and 2 basically obsolete? Like, there's no need to watch them anymore because the post-credit scene is all about the MCU, and that's kind of more important than the Venom movies. No, I don't really agree with that. I mean, given that, if that was the case, when you have Avengers, when you have the Avengers Endgame, when the Avengers, the big bad moves with Thanos, you would have that taken back with, with Iron Man. Okay, maybe the Thor movies, Thor 1 and 2, but I think the movies are still valid. So I think you should totally watch Venom 1 and Venom 2, and I think Venom 2 is better than Venom 1. And yeah, that's what I'm getting at, 4.5 out of 5. That's it for my review for Venom 2. Let me know your thoughts below if you agree with my review. And yeah, that's it for this video, guys. Hit that like button, remember to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time on the Mashup.